Today is Monday, October 1st, 2012. Today we're going to be reviewing over 12.2 adding equations and 12.3 subtracting equations, brought to you by the one and only Mr. Eves. Now, to start off, addition equations, to solve these, we need to use subtraction. So, even though it's an addition equation, we're going to use subtraction to solve it. So, if you notice right here, we have x plus 5 equals 12. And in order for us to solve for this, we're going to use subtraction. And so the very first thing is we're going to locate that variable. And we have x. And then we're going to do the opposite of adding 5, which is subtracting side. Now you're going to see that I did it to both sides of the equation. We need to keep the equation balanced, and so I'm going to do it to both sides. Now 5 minus 5, you're going to notice that that cancels out to 0. And so I just call it zeroing out. And on the other side, so that leaves me with x equals on this one side. On the other side, I minus 5 from 12, and that equals 7. Now to make sure that this is correct, I'm going to plug it back into the equation. So now I have 7 plus 5 equals 12. And when I know that that's true, then I box my answer, and I know that's the correct answer. So it is the solution to the variable. So x equals 7. Now we're going to start over once again. We identify where the variable is. So on problem number 2, the variable is coming second, and we're still dealing with an addition equation. And so I subtract 8, or do the opposite of 8, which is a negative 8, from both sides. And so we're going to notice that we're subtracting 8 from both sides. And when I do that, on the side on the left, on this side, we're going to notice that this cancels out. And so 8 minus 8 is 0, and so we have 0 plus x, and I'm just going to name that x equals. So that side is just x. On the opposite side of the equation, take away 8 from 24, and we get 16. Now if I put this back into the original equation, 16 plus 8, or 8 plus 16, that does give me 24, and so I'm going to box my answer, and I know that I've verified that I have the correct solution. One more quick example, and then we'll move on to 12.3. On this next example, we are going to identify the variable, so x is right up there, right? And after we've identified where x is, then we're going to do the opposite of adding 6, which is subtracting 6. So we subtract 6 from both sides. Now, when we subtract 6 from 6, we know that that cancels out and gives us 0, and so we're going to have x alone on this one side. And then I subtract 6 from 8, and I get 2. I put the 2 back into my original equation. Now I have 2 plus 6 equals 8. And yes, that is correct, and so I'm going to box my answers. Now, just a quick reminder, remember, it doesn't matter which side of the equation the variable is on. You can solve it either way. And it looks like on all these ones, the variable is on the left side. So we're going to be fine in this situation. In 12.3, we'll see that it's a little bit different, but not much. So 12.3, we have subtraction equations. And basically with subtraction equations, in order for us to solve them, we're going to use addition. So pretty simple and pretty straightforward. So our very first question is x minus 5 equals 8. Very first thing I want to do is identify the variable, which is x. That's some number. Minus 5 equals 8. Now we could do these in our head without even having to use algebra, but we just want to practice. And so that's what we're going to do, is we're going to practice. So once we've found our variable, then we're going to do the opposite of subtracting 5, which is adding 5 to both sides. So I add 5 to both sides of the equation to keep it balanced. And remember that minus 5 and plus 5, that zeroes out. And so that cancels out on this one side, leaving us alone with 0, or x plus 0, or x minus 0, which is just x. On the other side, we have plus 5 to 8. So 8 plus 5 is 13. I put this back into my original equation, and 13 minus 5 is 8, and so I know that that's correct. You're going to notice that one thing about subtracting equation and adding equations, it's all about isolating the variable. And remember, isolating the variable means to get x or y or whatever variable is by itself. And so that's all we're doing, whether it's addition or subtraction, multiplication or division. Whenever we're solving for equations, we want to isolate the variable. So problem number 2, we identify the variable and we want to get it by itself. We're subtracting 7, so to get it by itself, we want to add 7 to both sides. And once I add 7, that gives me 0, so that's x minus 0 or x plus 0, however we want to look at it, and that's 0 plus anything is going to be that same thing. So x plus 0 or x minus 0 is just going to be x. And then that leaves me with x on that side. On the opposite side, we have 5 plus 7, which is 12. We put it back into the original equation, and yes, sure enough, that 12 minus 7 is 5. So we box our answer. Finally, on problem number 3, we see that x is our variable once again, and we're minusing 3, so we're going to do its opposite by adding 3 to both sides. Minus 3 and a positive or plus 3, that zeroes out, and that leaves me with just x on that one side. Now we have 9 plus 3, which is 12. I put 12 back into the original equation, and that is 12 minus 3 equals 9. Yes, that's true, and so we're good. Now, I just want to clarify once again that it doesn't matter what side the equation on, and whether it's on the left side or the variable is on the right side. It really doesn't matter where we're at. We can solve for it. We can isolate that variable because remember, two sides of the equation must be equal. They must be balanced. The lesson for today, we just had the worksheet and it'll be due tomorrow. I hope you have a great day and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.